All right, so now following all these presentations, we're gonna have a bit of a panel discussion around external attack surface and a bit more concrete what companies can do to find their external attack surface and how to protect themselves. And I mean, you recognize David and Jesper from 1 minute ago, and we also have Mathias here, who is from Kivra. And you're head of technical security there, so welcome up on stage. And we also have Shane, who is from Skandia, who is also a loyal Detectify customer. Yes. Loyal. So that's fantastic. Yeah. So I wanted to. We have touched a bit upon this now during the presentations, but I want to go a bit deeper into this. So when we look at companies' attack surfaces, if we look at it 10 years ago or even 5 years ago versus now, what has actually changed in the attack surface? What are we seeing now that we didn't see then?
Well, I think that one is basically a prediction, is that companies are now more or less forced to use cloud services and moving away from having installed applications locally inside their network to use everything, web-based or cloud-based, and that has, changed in a way as well that instead of having your own server, you're sharing that space with other companies, sharing data, one infrastructure. I think that's a prominent thing that changed for the last 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely, and also I think that just with digitalization. The whole world has become an attack surface. If you go back 10 years ago, there was far fewer things we could actually get hacked. It just wasn't possible. And today, people can hack my microwave oven.
So the attack surface is bigger.
Huge.
Yeah, I think that another important thing to note is that a lot of stuff that used to be in-house has been kind of outsourced to cloud services as well. So you don't necessarily need to have like an internal support ticketing system, because now you can have Zendesk or things like this. And a lot of times, maybe the security controls or assessments that would have been done if it was made in-house maybe isn't now, because it's a cloud service and everyone uses it, so probably it's secure. But then you have these, misconfigurations or whatever that.
But it's a thing, right? It's a cloud, it's an entity. Where does it start and when does it end? No one really knows, and you use multiple of them. You use the entire sky, so you don't use AWS. You use or you use like Squarespace, or you use like Zendesk, as you told. Like there's like a bunch of connections that wasn't even possible before. I guess that is sort of the norm now. That's how you do things.
And we're all connected together now. So I think you mentioned it there. It's like Skandia, for example. We have a responsibility not just to us, but all our partners and everybody we're connected to. If we don't do our stuff right, we'll put somebody else in danger because they'll get to them through us.
Yeah.
Mm. And if we look at this from a hacker's perspective, I know at least 3 of you are actively hacking in your profession. When you do recon, how has this affected recon methods for hackers? I mean, we've heard a little bit of like being alerted of anomalies, for example. Is there anything else?
No, but like we touched about DNS. I tend to do the exact same thing, but I look at like certificates as well. Really important. Like everyone uses Let's Encrypt, and it's awesome, and that's nice for recon as well, because you have a mirror image on what's going on and what has been going on for the past, because that's how certificate works. They sort of have to know the origin and truth, so you can sort of have can sort of go back an attestation chain and see what was before. And DNS, like have something taking a snap out of a zone file is really important. Like you can just diff it and see the difference. It's really neat and automatable. Like that's something I do a lot.
I also think one big difference is Jonas was touching it in his presentation that, I mean, how if you would do a vulnerability assessment on a company, would you ever find out which kind of software that they're using internally inside the network? That's probably quite difficult, right? But when it comes to the external attack service, it's much easier. Like if you search for blog.companyname.com or helpdesk.company.name, like using DNS, for example, you can say, oh, it's this web server, it's this version of PHP, is this a web application. Then you can easily see if they haven't done vulnerability assessment. I mean, that's much more easy than doing something internally on the network.
Well, even internally, if you think about it, even the code, the little bit of code that our developers do write. I mean, let's face it, most of our developers copy 80% of the code they write from, Slack or from one of the internet sites, and developers go onto the website and they say, hey, we're moving our internal databases from Oracle to SQL Server, but we've discovered the version is XXX, and does anybody have any good ideas about the best way to convert our stored procedures?
Yeah.
Bang. Any hacker can look up LinkedIn, see all the developers are in that company, go in, check what questions they've posted, and very quickly build up a huge profile of their internal tech systems.
I mean, you could imagine, because I mean, it's evidently a method to kind of fingerprint and kind of find out what companies are exposing. You could imagine that a method would be to try to hide those things, try to security by obscurity, basically. Is that a viable method, or how should you go about this?
I don't think it's viable. I think you've got to just go from the assumption that the information is out there and try to make sure that your systems are secure, even when the other people have that knowledge.
Well, I like the term like assume breach. Like everything else on the internet nowadays. Don't try to think about anything else. Everything is tunneled through JSON, YAML, web. Done.
I don't completely agree, actually. I think that, like, in theory, it's all just a matter of time, or how much time it would take to break in. So obscurity does help.
Yeah, it's
extending
pain.
it a little bit, at least. But I don't think that maybe it's something that you should spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like
No, but it works. Like I've been.
I mean, it would cost, let's say, the attacker more time. So
I've been spending
it's not
2 days
completely
reversing
useless.
JavaScript. It's a pain, but I have time, so I have to sort of do it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I get frustrated, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also makes your own inventory much more difficult. Like maybe you are relying on a specific version number or an application name, and if you change it to poopface 1337, then you're like, oh, what is the application that I'm running on this server? It's not poopface, right? It's something else. So inventory is something that on a bigger scale, if you're heading a large company, it would be quite interesting to know what kind of external services do I have? How do I protect them? What do I need to focus on? Because if there's a new vulnerability in whatever kind of service, you need to know, am I running that service somehow? And if you change the data a little bit, or I mean, it depends on how you said security by obscurity. Like it depends on what you do.
Yeah, but if it's
obscure the
really
data.
cheap, let's say time-wise, internally to do it, like remove like a server header, for example, then I think you should consider it still. And if
Put in an incorrect server header.
Yeah, maybe.
No, but it's like I could agree. Like it's like if you're doing anything, you will probably be better than 99.9% of the other ones. So maybe do something. I think that would be okay. Speaking from my perspective, I mainly do code-assisted pen tests, so I have source code access. So I'm not really the bug bounty guy. I do it sometimes if I find something really neat that I know is broken everywhere, because profit. But I rarely do that. I tend to always have code, because it's a lot faster.
But I see your point. It's like you're just winning time, right? That's basically what you're saying. It's about winning time.
Yeah.
If they don't, I mean, they rather go after
People are lazy.
a confirmed target than trying to figure out if you are running that kind of thing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Or you can like send a really old server header and see that, and you
Yeah.
get a warning.
And
maybe.
see how
I
much
don't know.
time they get before they sort of give up and are frustrated that
But
not it works.
to answer, you commented on SSL labs. We take things like SSL labs and securityheaders.com and Mozilla Observatory very seriously, because not only does it gives us an outside view of our systems, but we certainly do not want to look like an easy mark
Makes sense.
for anybody doing a basic recce.
Makes sense.
Hello, yeah, Jerry Manley. I did a check on a company that does visual management systems, video, security cameras. And they had I found a problem, an error, and I contacted them. And about a month later, they came back and said, yeah, we have to leave that there. And I said, why? Well, if we fix that or get rid of it, our app doesn't work. So
Nice.
it's still there.
Yeah.
2 years. Okay, yeah, but I mean, for me in the security branch, that is a no-no. Okay. Thank you.
So we've also mentioned, you don't have your service in your basement anymore. You can't put a physical firewall in front of it. Fredrik also concluded, this about like outliers, not necessarily only the master applications that is the issue. Like concretely, what should a company do to have an idea of what their attack surface is?
By Detectify.
You get paid.
Right answer.
Well, I can say
No,
in the
I
old
was
days,
just waiting for someone to say it.
in the old days when you had sort of perimeter defense, right? Sort of your castle idea, and inside everything's safe and sound. You got your fairy tale Disneyland where nothing bad happens. Then you could, of course, put a lot of focus and attention on the gates, the information coming in. But nowadays, when we're in a zero trust era where basically anything can be happening inside the network, you've got assumed breach. They're already inside your company network. Then instead of having, if you think of the human babies that you need to be kindergarten teachers around protecting, you have to produce your applications a bit more like baby alligators. That they come out of the egg. They come out of the egg ready to fight. Maybe not 100%, but they've got inbuilt defensive capability for all your subsystems, and also that your subsystems don't trust each other.
Yeah, but I tend to go for anomaly detection. Like, if you sort of know what you're supposed to look for, I see it a lot of people, they implement really expensive log metric services, like, I won't mention anyone. But it's really expensive, and the only thing that it does is that it is a lot. And you sort of need to have that manageable. You sort of, like, for the examples I showed you here on, in the presentation, like, we have egress traffic to something that shouldn't be. That's pretty simple to sort of have why should our services call out home? Why should they do that? Do they need that? Yeah, they do that because they need to download this repository, this image, or blah, blah, blah. Then you can do a one-to-one rule there, and that is mitigated. You should not allow DNS resolution from your internal network and allow unrestricted internet access from within your network.
Yeah, contacting external JavaScript libraries, for example.
Right.
You really need to be on tracking which library has been called, and that you're aware why they're calling that package.
That's something I mentioned before. Like, you're developing something in Node. How much is your code and how much is actually dependencies? Like 5% your, everything else is someone else's code. And it's a problem. And you need to sort of know what you're looking for. Like, what kind of attacks are we sort of expecting here?
And like third-party libraries, it's so heavily connected to ransomware. I mean, it's killing us. We have to use them, so you need to know what you own, what's in your systems, and what the vulnerabilities are for them.
Yeah, I would like to add, just know what you have as well. It's just third-party libraries. What kind of applications do you have? Where are they stored? Who's the vendor? Who's maintaining it? Who's the admin of this thing? If something happens, who is going to fix this? And then have a strong security culture inside the company. So all the developers, not just developers, but also the users,
Everyone.
They know what they're supposed to be doing. They know what the key values are in the company, that what you're actually protecting. I think that's very valuable. Instead of just having tons of data, a lot of services, and no one is owning it.
Or marketing set up a little extra WordPress site for their let's marketing.
But to be honest, it's really easy for us saying fix the problem. It is a big problem. It is a hard problem. Like technical debt, for example, that will not go away, but it will not be better if you don't do anything, right? So we are a low company. Yeah. We have this really old monoliths that we can't get rid of, but they will be there then. So you have to act accordingly, and then you have to do something.
Okay, I'll be a little bit provocative, and I think it's our fault as well. And
sure.
I'm not talking about us four. I'm talking about everybody in the audience. We need to just stop talking about bullshit and sell product and services that doesn't make any sense. We should just, sometimes just speak the truth and say, this is important. This is how you fix security, and not just, brainwash people. I mean, we've had passwords is a problem since 30 years back. Why is it still a problem? Yeah, because I tell you something, you tell Mathias, and Mathias tells you, and then suddenly it's all broken. And that's kind of the way we teach security. Instead of just, stopping and say, okay, how do we actually fix this? What is the problem? Yeah, this is the problem. This is the solution. And the solution might change from today until tomorrow as well, because technology changes in the same way. So we can't teach security in the same way as we've been doing since 1980. It just doesn't work. yeah, that was my point. And now everybody hates me.
No, no, but I agree at some extent of it. I think that it is a cultural problem, and we should implement non-blame policies, and we should develop security culture within our organization. That would be a good thing to have. And people tend to not do that. But they're like, what it boils down to in my mind is we are not agreeing on what's worth protecting. And that needs to happen. Otherwise, we're sort of not knowing what to do, in my opinion. Everybody's silent.
So, I mean, it's not enough with tooling, obviously. It's a culture, it's a way of working. I think a lot of people in the audience here work in a security team, for example. How should a security team work in the new environment? I mean, we deploy code all the time now. It's like it needs to be fast. How much speed should you enable versus not? And how much should a security team be an enabler for an organization versus a controller?
Well, velocity can be your friend. For example, if you have like say you're constantly spinning up new containers of your services at the same time, slightly older versions are dying all the time. Good luck to an advanced persistent threat that is going to invest 3 years of research trying to get into one of your containers. They only live for a week. So velocity can help there. But if you're going to do that, if your developers are going to have the freedom which they need to maybe just push code directly to production, then as a security team, it's our responsibility to build in those bowling alley rails. So it's hard for them to do something really bad. It's hard for them to fuck up really badly.
I would like to add, it's also about responsibility and ownership. Like you need to own your system, your service, your code, and you need to treat it as it's your own. So you just don't just develop something, you push it out and then say, thanks, I'm done, then I'm moving on. And
so you mean the development teams need to own it?
Yes, and that the development teams should work together with the security team, so they work together, it's not against each other.
But in terms of like pushing to productions, we're using orchestration, we're using infrastructure as code. There I would like to suggest that we use linters. I know a lot of people do that, and they are really nice linters. Let's say Terraform, we have TFSec and Chekhov. And it's really good template-based, it's really nice, but we need to sort of know what we're implementing anyway. Like we need to know and we need to read the results. Let's say we have a container ecosystem and we're building that in a build environment. We should have sys benchmarks in order to check for the most common really bad stuff that people tend to do in terms of misconfiguration that is pushed to production, but no one really looks at because they don't know it. But there are a lot of nice tools that you can use in order to have a multi-builds with your container ecosystems that will actually give you a metric and see what's going on and give you a visibility how good to par you are in terms of hardening your container runtimes. And that is not sorcery, that's out there, but it's like Privy, for example. That's like a nice piece of kit that you can implement into your development cycle and it will give you good results.
I also like the fact where you can have internal bug bounty systems.
Sure, really good.
To both increase awareness, but also make people aware that, okay, we have vulnerabilities and it shouldn't be a shame to report a vulnerability, and it shouldn't be like, oh, you reported this vulnerability, so you have to fix it as well. Like it shouldn't be in that way. You should have it in part of your security culture that it is okay.
Well, not just internal bug bounty. I think external bug bounty programs are great as well.
Yeah, just internal.
No, but a non-blame culture, I think is good. Like if someone, I know, like in the before times when you sent a bug bounty report in, it was sort of like a hit and miss. You just waited. Will I get like the entire legal department killing me, or will I get a T-shirt?
Well, I know when we had a problem one time which Detectify detected, and one of the first suggestions we got in the security team was somebody said, can we just turn off the Detectify scanning?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that solve the problem?
Ouch. So quick fix.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Great suggestion. Mathias, do you agree about this bowling alley analogy that you kind of...
Yeah, I think so. I use kind of a similar terminology at my day job as well, but more like we should try to make it harder to do it wrong, basically.
And how should you balance like locking down environments and not enabling people to use the wrong tools, the wrong cloud provider and so on, or checking after the fact and kind of enforcing policies like, oh, I see that you're using AWS, we're not using that?
Hard question as well.
Yeah.
But let's say you're running a container, right? So you're using Alpine. You can do like but gazillion things to the Alpine in order to make it more secure. But then is that the best way of going forward to secure the product? It's like how much security is enough in which part of the stack? It's a really hard question, I would say. Like what will be the best? It depends on the impact, and that has to sort of be, in my opinion, boils down to the security risk and the threat model of the company. I would say.
Well, I think like for example, the server header example. We train our developers to set up their servers so they don't put out the server header. Then we also go into the firewall and strip out the server header if it finds it. And then we scan our websites to make sure nobody's got a way around still pumping out the server header.
But then you sort of agreed that server headers are bad. Yeah. And everyone is working to get rid of server headers. But then again, 99.9% of the containers I pop has Alpine, which has curl, which have a default service token mounted, and I can grab kube control, download it to my pod, and then use the service account to query the cluster. Why? No egress filtering. We have binaries that we don't use. There is a lot of nice reading about distroless containers. They're not used because they're hard. It's hard, but it's like it's a hard domain to sort of put in a box. In my opinion, it's hard.
I understand it as if we don't have that much time left. How much do I have?
No, actually, I was thinking if anyone in the audience has some questions.
That's a good idea. Yeah, turning to you.
I have one, but it's like sort of related. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'll go anyway. So I have worked with professional penetration testing for a short while now, maybe like 7 pen tests, and I worked in the security branch for like two more years other than that. And I'm really jealous of the people that have like been in security longer than I have. Like HTTP was flying everywhere, and like it sounds fun. RCs everywhere.
It's much more. It's much more fun now.
Yeah, for you maybe.
Oh no, I don't think you're never late to any party. It's just more of the same.
Is it like moving to the security of the world in general, like all technology? Is it moving in the right direction, or do you think that we will be chasing the baddies all the time forever?
No, but we will always develop. Like everyone, like even the bad hackers out there will develop their skill level. We will develop our skill level. So we will be a thing. I think it will be a thing ongoing as well. And I think we have a silver bullet to fix security.
Yeah, and hacking's a bit like music. You see something turns up, it becomes really popular, and then it disappears, and people find fixes for it. And then for God knows why, 10 years later, again, you're facing the same damn problem, which turns up again.
But I think we're moving towards something that's better, right? We're getting more legislation, we're getting better at software development. But I can guarantee you, even with that said, if you stick in the security industry doing a pen test for 20 more years or whatever, you'll remember this time and you'll be like, I remember 20 years ago when I could hack this thing with some easy
everything was so easy before.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the day, it was this so easy. Now it's,
Well, it's actually true. When I started pen testing, there wasn't such a thing. We were a part of a developer team. So we were like at McDonald's. We were the large fries. So you couldn't sell security penetration tests when I started. It was like by the way, we have these guys. They are doing things.
But there is buy-in now. I mean, when I first started,
that's important.
Big part of my job was convincing people that security was important.
Sure.
You don't have to do that anymore.
Oh, and that has been that we can thank Revo and all the nice Kaseya exploitation. Like the public exploitations is actually good because it visualizes a problem. Okay, I can't buy my salad anymore. That's like a tactile thing.
Is it horrible when I feel glad when I see, say, Co-op being hacked on the TV? I go, yes,
I told you so.
It's going to do wonders for my budget.
Yeah. No, but that's actually a thing because they like you never talked about it when I started. Like and you don't really do that nowadays either. But it's starting to get out there, in my opinion.
But also, like if I compare it, I've been in the industry for a very long time as well, like so over 25 years. And when I started hacking, doing pen tests, you didn't have the same systems as you have today. The attack surface was like this big, right? Now it's this big. Everything's connected. As you said, there's refrigerators, there's medical systems, there's cars, there's satellites, there's whatever. That wasn't really the case, 25 years ago. Not really. So it will be more fun, I guarantee you.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird when you're like, you're looking for vulnerabilities. Like, I'm happy if I find the vulnerabilities, but that's not that fun for like the owners of the system that I'm hacking on. But on the other hand,
but that's because I think that's because more people look for vulnerabilities. So it's difficult to find something new. It's not difficult to find a vulnerability, but it's maybe difficult to find something that no one ever found before.
Yeah,
which is a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like culturally, I think it's a lot better now. But can things be hacked as easy today as 10 years ago? Sadly, probably yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? There?
So, hi. I'm just thinking a little kind of to the doping and sports. Why doping has become so big is because of the money involved. I mean, nobody cared about doping 40 years ago. You just got the gold medal. So it's a little the same trend here because the ransom people are paying it. So more and more go to that one. So should everybody stop paying the ransom? And because, I mean, because people, especially big companies, are so afraid of their reputation and the stock market, how that would react if it come public, so then they pay it again. Do we have a kind of an endless loop, and is the war lost?
But it's a game of math, no? Statistically, I pay this amount of Bitcoin, I get 150 people doing overtime until we sort of mitigate the problem. Like take Mashk, for example. Anyone works at Mashk here? They were in luck. There was one domain controller that was not
That's right, in somewhere in the darkest Africa, wasn't it?
Yeah. They got flown in order to do a recovery. So it's like, it's a due diligence. They're like, what will cost the least amount of money to get us operational again? And as long as like, if Bitcoin is cheaper, you can do the right thing, or you can just save the company.
But I was just thinking that's why maybe more starts doing it, because you get them more money again. So I mean, it just gets bigger and bigger because of that.
Yeah, we're unfortunately we're almost in the situation where we're like that film, The Magnificent Seven. Where the bandits turn up once a year and take 10% of our harvest, and until the problem gets sufficiently large. People will just pay the 10% because it's the cheapest option. That's capitalism for you.
Yeah.
As I understand it, there is a discussion to make the payment of ransomware ransoms illegal. So that might be, I think it's a political solution would be more necessary than you can't rely on an individual company, because they're going to make the best financial decision they can for right now.
But then the penalty has to be very big, because then you have again the analogy that is it even cheaper to pay the ransom and the fine?
Well, I'm not a politician, thank God.
Thanks.
Hi. I think that you have explained everything really good. And we have the on-prem solution. It's expensive and scarce resources. Then we have the cloud solutions, which are easy to penetrate and get access to the information. What should we do?
Have a beer.
Okay, that's the easy solution.
Yeah. Oh wow, such a
no,
difficult
but like
question.
what we talked about, like security culture will actually benefit. Doing risk analysis, like agreeing on what's worth protecting, is actually a thing. Like when I do security champions workshop, like the OWASP security champion thing, where you sort of take one person out of each team that will get like the champion tag. And
champion
sort of cap or whatever, right?
It is, yeah.
To sort of drive security culture. That is actually making a difference, because the teams are sort of, we're worried about this and we're worried about this. Okay, then we can have a common ground and sort of work against that problem. Like for the headers, for example. Yeah. Multiple teams are included in the headers.
And get the sign-off. So you need to work top down from the management. They need to buy in. And when they start saying, you need to have visibility so you can show the reports, and then they start going to manager and say, why is all your stuff red? Then the managers start to care, they start pushing downwards. And at the same time, there's a lot of your developers and stuff in teams, they want to do good systems. They want to be craftsmen at their job. They want to be They want to, like the way they used to want to learn design patterns, architectural. They want to run unit tests. They want to be testers. They do want to learn security if you give them a chance. At least some of them.
Sure.
Of course, other ones just don't care.
Anyone?
Hi, Thomas. I work for a company called TrueSec. We just a little thing. We do a lot of investigations, and we always recommend people to not pay the ransom. But we tell them, and then we leave the room because it's up to them and not to us. But I can tell you, it's a lucrative business, very much. My question comes more to asking you about more and more companies. I see them implementing SOCs. And I'm wondering your opinions on those, as in monitoring environments, both on-prem and in the cloud. I can see more and more companies invest in them, and some companies do not. Do you think they're worth the investment?
It depends on how mature you are, I would say. I have a lot of clients that are invested heavily in Datadog, for example. And if anyone not heard about it, it's like an aggregated service for looking at logs in a really nifty way. It's really, 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 really expensive if you have some loads, but if you know what you are looking for, it's actually valuable. But so I would say some clients that I work for, I mainly work with really, really big IT tech companies. They have a really clear idea what's worth protecting, and in most of those cases, their implementation is actually sound. But so I'm a bit biased here, I guess.
Yeah, because some companies, they buy this and then they think they're very protected.
Yeah, and that's far from the truth. That's not the truth.
Exactly, and that's why I'm wondering your opinions.
I see a lot of people enabling cloud trails and guard duty, for example, and they are hoping that by just paying the extra fee, everything is nice. And that is the garden hose analogy again, right?
Retail therapy.
Yeah, but it's not working because it's too much.
Well, some of the vendors do like charging by the amount,
Sure.
so, and especially the disk amount. So I'm not going to mention who, but
So it sort of depends, right? I would say.
Yeah, it also depends if you have a mature incident response team. Like if you do detect something like, okay, this is a problem, you're infected or someone's trying to hack you, then what? What are you going to do about it? You have the alarm, but you need to be able to handle those kind of requests when they come in from the SOC team, because the SOC team won't fix it for you. They'll just, report it to you.
well, I'm thinking because you're on the other side, so you face it outwards. Like I've seen it from the inside a lot, as in.
To be honest, I have never had a problem with any EDR, WAF, or anything sort of being in my way. It is a time thing. You have to tread lightly, but it's there in order to support the client. If I impersonate the client, so it's only as good as what you're looking at, right? So it depends, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, any final words that you felt like we didn't cover? Any final advice to the audience? Too broad question. Okay.
Run. How do you summarize? But I think we covered a lot of points. Like, is security culture, security mindset, just about the tools. It's about how we work with security. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, but thank you so much, everyone in the panel, and thanks for all the great questions.
Thank you, guys.